Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. For this first DIY, I took an old ironing board with an amazing cover that I got for free from a friend. I gave it a good cleaning all over with some cleaner. Then I went to town spraying it, mostly the sides and the legs, with some Bullseye 123 primer spray paint. After it was dry, I laid it down on scrap pieces of fence board that I got for free off Facebook Marketplace. I traced out the shape of the ironing board on them and then used my jigsaw to cut each piece out. I also numbered them 1 to I think it was 14. But anyways, I numbered them all the way along so that I knew which position they were in. So I just very carefully cut along the lines with my jigsaw, my Mastercraft jigsaw. I also clamped them down to help it, and always take all safety precautions, safety goggles, keep your hands away from the blades. Here I am just showing that I did number them. Then I took my Tack Life sander, orbital sander, random orbital sander, and sanded off the ends really well, kind of rounded them a bit, and then the tops, I didn't really do much to the bottom because I knew it was going to be face down on the ironing board, but I did do, yeah, the tops fairly nicely. Next, I took my Minwax water-based stain in dark walnut and brushed it on, then wiped it off, any of the excess off, with a rag. I did this on the fronts, the edges, and not too much of the sides that go in between each piece. I let this dry, and once it was dry, I laid them all out and used the Varathane Diamond Sealer and gave it probably 3 or 4 coats really well along the tops and the edges. Then with some liquid nails that I got on sale from Walmart for $1, I used it all over the ironing board, avoiding the holes, and then glued each piece down one at a time. Then I used some pictures that I had in my garage for weights to weigh it down. If you do want extra security, I probably would suggest flipping it over and using really small brad nails or screws, but I felt that because it wasn't really going to be flipped upside down or around too much, that the liquid nails would hold just fine. And that is it. I hope you like it. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below. For my second DIY, I took some of these candle holders that I got from a thrift store. They were $2.09 for the pair, so about a buck and a bit each. I gave them, I took off the sticker as much as I could with my fingers, then used this lift off that I got. It's very similar to Goo Gone. I find it works just as good, but again, I got it on sale at Walmart for $1. So I removed the stickers and then gave it all a clean. Next, I took some sample paint that I had from Habitat for Humanity and mixed in quite a bit of baking soda because I wanted to give these a cement look. So I painted this all over in the same direction on the candle, the outsides of the candlesticks and the tops. Once it was all dry, I thought that I wanted it a little bit darker because it was a little too light. It wasn't really giving me a cement feel. So I took the aged gray chalk paint from Rust-Oleum and just went over all sides with it. On my computer, I made out these little printables that I printed onto white tissue paper. Then using the decoupage, I put a layer on the fronts of them and then used the brush to pick it up and lay it down and then worked my way from the center out, making sure to get as many wrinkles out as possible. Then after they were dried, I went back with the aged gray just to kind of blend in the edges a bit, kind of with a dry brushing technique. Not very much paint was on my brush. Then I wanted to finish off the bottoms to give it more of a clean finished look because these could easily be done for resale purposes. So I just gave them 2 coats on the bottom. And that was it for this DIY. Actually, no, it wasn't. After all was dry, I went in with some jute twine. Thought they needed a little bow, so I wrapped it around 2 times, then just tied a simple bow. I used some hot glue to help it hold in place. I did this for both of them, and then that now is it for this DIY. Today's video is a collaboration with the amazing, the wonderful, the talented Sandra from the Schwowin's Nest. She has decided to collab with me. We've done some farmhouse DIYs for you guys, giving you lots of inspiration, I'm sure. So her channel will be linked in my description box. Make sure to head on over to her channel, say hi, say I sent you, subscribe to her if you like what you see, which I'm sure you will. I've been watching her for a long time before I even started doing DIYs. So this is a true honor to be collabing with her today. I want to thank Sandra very much for this opportunity. For the third DIY, I took a shadow box frame that my daughter had begun to DIY but never completed, so I'm repurposing it. I took the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in Age Gray and a flat paintbrush and went around the sides and a bit of the bottoms, giving it 2 coats, letting it dry in between. Then I did the tops of the frame. I went around it all twice as well, letting it dry between coats. And I left the outer edges the wood color that it originally was. Then with some scrapbook paper that I got from the Modern Farmhouse pack from Michael's, I put it on top of the frame and then just used my fingers to try and get a rough estimate, rough mark where I need to cut. I will suggest cut on the outside of your mark to make it on the bigger side because it's much easier to trim down. As you will see in the next scene, I use my paper cutter and I go back and forth from fitting it in and the paper cutter and trimming off small bits until it fit nicely into the bottom of the frame. Then with the decoupage, the matte decoupage from Deco Art, I used it and a little bit of water and gave the bottom a good coat. Then I used a little bit of water on my sponge brush and wet the back of the scrapbook paper before laying it down into the frame. I adjusted it to where it fit nicely, then went in with just a scraper tool that I got from Crafter's Vinyl Supply to smooth out all the bubbles. Then to showcase this beautiful bottle that I got for free, I want to hang it in the frame. So I'm just marking on either sides where I'm going to drill some holes with my Mastercraft drill because I'm going to put wire into these holes around to hold the bottle securely, as this bottle was quite heavy. So here I am just using my drill with some scrap wood underneath so that I don't go into the surface. Then with some of this galvanized wire that I got from Dollarama, while working with it, it is quite thick. I probably would suggest something thinner, but this is what I had on hand. So I lay the bottle onto where it laid nicely on the frame, then thread my wire through the holes, then place the bottle back in to figure out the sizing. Then once I was happy with it, I curled one of the ends of the wires to hold it in place, then trimmed it off the ends with my wire cutters, then put the bottle back under to secure it, and then pulled as best I could the other side of the wire to get it as snug and tight of a hold as possible. I was on the struggle bus. It kept falling out many times. So I next, as you see here, am now cutting another piece of wire to hold the top. And this made it 10 times easier to get it tight at the bottom. So again, I'm threading the wire through the holes that I drilled and then tightening it on the back. This time I twisted the two together so that it would hold the bottle securely. I think just those two alone would hold the bottle, but for extra security, I did do the bottoms as well. So I'm just trimming off the excess wire here and then went back to the bottom and tightened it as best I could by pulling it and then coiling the wire, the leftover wire, and trimming it with my floral cutters. Now to prevent, then I took my hammer just to flatten it out as best as possible. But because I felt that this would probably scratch the walls, I just repurposed a trivet, a cork trivet, and cut it down into pieces and hot glued them in place over all 3 spots that the wires were exposed on the back. This isn't the best looking, especially for repurpose value, but I'm definitely keeping this piece. I fell in love with it. But my other suggestion would be, if you make something similar, probably those floor little floor sticky felt things that you put under your chair legs. You can get them at Dollar Tree. Those would probably work just as well. I would probably suggest using hot glue to help them adhere rather than just using their adhesive, but I know that would probably give it a nicer look. But again, like I said, I'm going to be keeping this piece, so I don't mind what it looks like on the back, and the cork worked just perfectly. Then with some ribbon that I got from Dollarama, I tied it onto the handle just for some extra added interest. I wanted them to end at different lengths, so I trimmed one of the pieces a little shorter. Then with some flowers that I got from Dollar Tree, I am in love with these sunflowers lately. I just took a batch, pushed all the green leaves up as high as possible, then bent the heads forward and used a dab of hot glue in the bottle neck, and that was it for this DIY. I think it is absolutely adorable, and it'd be awesome probably in more than one, to display numerous bottles if you wanted. But yeah, I think it's cute. Let me know what you think. For this fourth DIY, I took this box that I got from my local thrift store. It was wood. I used my scraper tool and the lift off to remove the tag, then gave it a good wiping with these all-purpose wipes that I got from Dollar Tree. On them, I noticed the yellowing, so I took my matte decoupage from Deco Art and gave it a good coat, as I wanted to paint this white. Now, here's where I'm showing you quick clips. I did paint it white with the Rust-Oleum chalked paint in linen white, but it yellowed. The decoupage did not seal the way I wanted. I know other YouTubers, creators have luck with that. I'm not having luck with this. This is now my second time that something has yellowed. So back to square one. I sanded off all the paint down to bare wood, then brought it back in after giving it a quick dust and clean. Then I used the salmon water-based stain in Castle Stone and brushed it on all sides. I did one side at a time, then removed the excess with a paper towel, then would go on to the next side. Once this was all dry, oh, and I also did the bottom and a bit of the edge. Once this was all dry, I went back in and just covered up the white paint that was yellowing that I couldn't reach with my sander with the sample paint that I had left over as I'm trying to use it up. So it's just in a light gray color. Then to get my lines nice and crisp along the top, I used just a piece of masking tape, laid it down, and then brushed away from the tape so that as little paint as possible would bleed through. This seemed to work well and gave me some nice crisp lines along the top. Then with a dried out gunky brush that I love to use for dry brushing and aging things, I took the linen white Rust-Oleum chalk paint and dry brushed all over. I focused mainly on the bottom, sides, and tops, and then did it a little lighter along the faces of the sides. Then, unfortunately, I didn't get a clip of this. I thought I pressed record, but I didn't. I gave one of these window frames from Dollar Tree a rough coat of the linen white Rust-Oleum paint all over, then adhered it onto the front of my box with my hot glue. Then I made a couple of simple shoelace bows, one with this lace ribbon and one with this burlap ribbon. Actually, the burlap ribbon I'm showing you I made slightly different. I make it in a loop, then pinch it in the center and tied it with some jute twine. I layered these bows together with some hot glue after trimming off all the ends. I also dovetailed the ends of the burlap ribbon, as you see here, by folding it in half and cutting on an angle. Once the two were adhered together, I then adhered it to the front of the frame with my hot glue. And then came the fun part of designing the floral arrangement. I used 3 of these dry sec floral foams from Dollar Tree. Then I used some lavender from Dollarama, some foliage from Dollar Tree, some boxwood from Michael's, and some of the baby's breath white flowers from Dollar Tree. And this is how it turned out. As always, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, please consider checking out some other of my videos or hitting that subscribe button. Bye.